Shut up and sit down.
I rise in the morning and greet the day. Pull out the bike and I'm on my way. The transportation shows I care every time.
Saddle up, cow people, and get ready for another titillating episode of the Dialed Podcast with your favorite yahoos, Matt Lee Grand, Evan Price, Lance Hepler, and Jake Von Turing. Yeehaw. Who writes this stuff? Yeehaw? Really? Come on. People, we can do better.
Just when I think you've said the stupidest thing ever, you keep talking.
Hi, welcome back to the Dialed Podcast. I'm Jake Von Turing. I'm here with Lance Hepler.
Lance Hepler, ready to go. Let's rip it. Let's roll it.
Let's do this.
Let's do this.
And to our, it was my digital left and Lance's digital right, we got Matt LeGrand.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen of the internet? Sorry, I am not in studio. I apologize.
He's in his own studio, his home studio.
That's because
Yeah.
we're recording on a
Home
weird
studio.
day, and you have actual responsibilities, unlike me.
You don't have a 15-year-old who can stay at home and watch the kids for you for free?
Life's hard, guys. Life's hard. It's been a rough couple days.
Nice. Let's do some backpedaling. Matt, why don't you start us off? Backpedal, Matt.
Okay, sure. I have been doing all the sports, all the triathlon stuff, just to test some watches. They came out this morning at 4 a.m., which is when I was awake working on these videos. But I've done a little biking. I've been biking with Sean and Shelly every weekend, which has been great. Those guys are cool.
Nice.
They're good sports. They put up with me. And a little bit of running, not a lot because, and this is weird, I went for a 3-mile run, and I think I pulled a muscle in my butt cheeks.
Oh, no. You got a pain in the butt?
I got a pain in the butt. And so after that was like Thursday. I was like, all right, I'm done running for the week. And I did do the Memorial Mile, which is a very important race.
On Labor Day.
In the
Or
cul-de-sac.
Memorial Day.
Yes.
Yeah.
Either way.
Whatever.
Call it what you will. Labor Day.
I'm lost.
But we do that every year. We do a mile. We had food and party time and whatever afterwards. So good times were had. Good times
Nice.
were had.
Was it a race? Did you guys race it?
It was not a race. I ran with my neighbor. The big kids thought it would be cool to go as slow as they could, and the little kids get tired really easily. And I ran with my neighbors, which was not super stressful. And I did get an open water swim in or two. I'm trying to remember if I did 2 open water swims or just 1. But man, it's so great out on the lake right now. I love
Nice.
this time of year.
Fallen Leaf Lake, is that where you're swimming?
Fallen Leaf Lake.
Nice.
Yep.
It's clean, no algae?
No algae there. No bloom.
My wife said she saw something, and I was like, nope, it's fine. Perfect. Fallen Leaf is always good.
Yeah, I saw a notification for Lacamas, and we've got the notification for Vancouver. So,
Oh,
Yeah.
Lacamas? I haven't seen that one yet.
yeah, I saw it on the Heritage Trail
Saw it on
yesterday.
the trail yesterday, yeah.
Bummer. Cool.
Did you guys go biking together on Heritage Trail,
We did.
We did, yeah.
as you sometimes do on
Yes.
Sundays? Is that your Sunday? Is that your Sunday date?
This was Tuesday night. It was we did a gravel ride on Tuesday night, last night, and so
Cool.
we were down the trail.
Lots of jogger dodging.
There was a lot.
I finally had to tell myself, all right, just slow down.
It's hot
Yeah.
here, and there was lots of people out on the even Even better,
You guys,
we
I think
rode.
you guys should go slow on Heritage. Heritage is
We rode out to the Columbia River at Washougal, and we rode down Cottonwood Beach, and the water
Yeah.
level's really high, so there's like very little beach. And there were 200 people on the beach.
Oh yeah,
in a very
I bet it
short
was
section.
great.
It was packed.
And there were 5 of us on gravel bikes, and we were riding down the beach, weaving in and out of people and missing kids and dogs. It was
People got a kick out of it,
They
though.
did,
We had like
yeah.
cheering sections all over
like,
the
"Whoa,
place.
look at
Yeah,
these
go! Check them out.
It
You
was pretty
guys.
funny. Yeah.
Hey, have backpedal.
No, you guys didn't kill anyone.
We did not
No.
kill anyone, so that was good. I had a very rough week last week. I had a lot of crap that happened to me. So after having all these back issues and taking like almost a week off the week before, I grabbed my mountain bike and headed out to a very popular mountain bike spot on Wednesday called Post Falls. It is in the Hood River, Oregon area. It's about an hour from us here. And I went out there. I was ripping some trails, and I broke my frame.
Whoops.
So my rear wheel, the rear axle came loose. The rear tire disc came out, and it lodged in my frame crooked, and it cracked my frame. The problem was I didn't notice the frame was cracked until the next day.
Oh, no.
So I'd actually ridden the rest, like another hour and a half on these difficult trails, whatever. So this was a major issue for me because there was a race this last weekend, the Sisters Stampede in Sisters, Oregon, and I was headed down there. I needed that bike to race, so Jake and I
have a bike you can borrow. It's your bike.
It's not my bike.
You know it so well.
You're right. But Jake and I had to do some scrambling here at the lab to put me on a frame where I could actually race, and so it made it a little bit tricky. Luckily enough, I was able to get a bike that I could actually race on. So I went early down to Sisters. It was a long weekend. It's beautiful. Sisters in the Bend, Oregon area. People know where Bend is, and in Central Oregon. Just fantastic. I went down there. The race was on Sunday. I went down on Friday to pre-ride the course so that I kind of knew where the pinch points were going to be and the hot spots were going to be. And I got there late, like 7 p.m., and I did like a 2.5-hour ride into the dark. I rode with a headlight so that I could kind of see the trail, but that's just the way the day worked out for me. And kind of funny story, I get back to my van.
I've been waiting to hear this for days now. Finally.
I get back to my van, pitch dark, the whole trailhead's empty, everybody's gone, and I can't find my van key. I lost my van key on the trail. Now, normally,
Oops.
That's not good.
No, normally I take my key and I zip it into a zipper pouch and put that zipper pouch into my pocket. But for whatever reason that night, I didn't zip the key in. I just shoved it in one of my rear pockets, and when I was pulling out like a gel or something, that my key must have flown out. And I thought,
You're like, nighttime on the trails, this will be easy to find.
no, it was 25 miles of trail. 25 miles of mountain bike trail. I wasn't going back. It was like 9:30.
Oh.
It was like pitch dark. And so, luckily, I keep an extra key hidden, but it was inside the van, not outside the van. And I thought, okay, if I can get inside the van, I'll be okay, and I can whatever. I lost a van key, So I check all the windows. Everything's locked except one little tiny sliding. If you look at my van, I have like a sliding like air vent window that opens like the size of an air vent. I don't know.
Yeah, please tell me you got stuck in there and the cops came.
Probably what?
I can
about
see where the
8
story
inches,
is going.
8 inches tall, maybe? No, about 6 inches tall.
It's maybe 6 inches tall and like
about 12 or
14 inches wide.
So
And
Lance thinks,
I look at that and think, hey, I think I can fit it through there. I bet I can fit through there. So the thing is, it's 5 feet up high. It's not down. It's not an easy spot. So I crawled on the roof of the van. I open up that window. I slide my feet in. I have to like work my hips around. I get my butt through. And I'm thinking, sweet, I'm getting in. I pull myself up, and it gets stuck on my rib cage. So I'm stuck in this window. I can't get my rib cage through it. Only the top half of my body is hanging out. I'm 5 feet off the ground, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm stuck in here. Not only that, I left my phone on the ground. I couldn't call anybody. I'm like, oh, what am I going to do? It took me a few minutes to wriggle my way out, but I managed to wriggle my way out, and I thought, you are an idiot. You just about... And the way my van was sitting, it was facing... My body would have been facing away from the road, so I wouldn't have been discovered till morning.
hunched over, folded over backwards, like scorpions, dead.
Yes. It was so bad. Anyway, so I get myself out, and I'm trying to decide which window to break to get into my van so that I can find this, hidden key. And then I remembered I have AAA. So, and I'm not sure if AAA is worth it, but it was that night. And so I called AAA, and it took like an hour and a half before somebody got to me, but they came out and were able to open my van, and I was able to get in and get it going. So, oh my gosh, it was kind of terrible.
That sounds horrible.
Yeah,
It was not good.
Just by chance, I haven't been on social media very much like recently, lately, and by chance, I think I opened up Instagram, and the first thing I see is a picture from Mudslinger Events with somebody's hand holding a set of keys. Hey, if these look familiar, come see us at the check-in or whatever. I'm like, oh, that poor sap.
Yeah, that was me.
That was your key.
That was my key. So, yeah, somebody did find my key the next day. It wasn't that night. It was the next day because people were pre-writing the course. So somebody does find my key. And the guy who found my key actually happens to follow me on Strava. Total luck of the draw. And he was reading my ride title on Strava, and he saw, hey, I lost my, I went out, but I lost my van key because I'm an idiot. And he posts on my Strava ride, hey, I found your van key. I took it to the registration tent. And I'm like, got to be kidding me. So I ended up getting my key back. Thank you, Stephen Plummer from Team Oregon Racing.
That was nice.
Yeah. So that was kind of crazy. Anyway, and then there was a race, and I did it.
And
So this is a big race. Sister Stampede is a big race. There were 500 people racing, 500 people registered.
that is excellent.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it wasn't one big mass start, but he did start us in our waves. Each individual age group waves, which was fantastic. And our wave had 56 people registered. It looks like only actually about 40 actually finished or showed up. So there were some people who didn't show up. But I buried myself and went out there, and I ended up third. I did not win. So
You can't win them all, man, but that's still an awesome showing.
yeah, it was. It's a great race. It's a great course. It started with like 6 miles of double track before we hit the single track, and my plan was to kind of not do any work in that first 6 miles. I wanted somebody else to go to the front. Maybe I shouldn't be telling all these stories because all these people I race against are listening to this, or they might be listening to this. But what ended up happening is our good teammate Scott Carroll. He also races in my category. As soon as the gun went off, he pinned it. He just bolted, and the rest of us kind of let him go. But after like a mile and a half, I'm like, okay, we can't just let Scott get away, and nobody else would go. They weren't trying to pull him back.
Well, they were waiting for the two other guys that were the favorites, if you will.
There
Scott's
were-
probably a favorite in there as well. And there's probably another guy who was a possible hitter, but they're waiting for you guys to respond to that.
There were
right?
3 of us who were kind of the favorites
The
in the
marked
race,
guys,
the
yeah.
marked guys. And the other guy, Court Johnson, he was at the front, and he decided, I'm not pulling it back. And he just pulled off. And I thought, okay, gosh dang it, Scott. And so I pulled Scott back, before we hit like mile 2.
Yeah.
I pulled him back. And we had a group of 40, I guess, and I pulled 4 guys with me. So it whittled down to only like 6 or 7 guys. Maybe it was 5 guys or 6 or 7 guys. So then we hit another like wider gravel road, and Scott just started pinning it again. And this time I'm sitting on Scott's wheel. Court Johnson's sitting on my wheel. There's 2 or 3 other guys behind Court, and Scott started to go again. I stayed on his wheel for a while, and I eventually went, you know what? I'm going to let Scott go. I'm not going to kill myself to stay on his wheel. And so I just let Scott gap because I was in second place. I was in second wheel. So I let Scott gap, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm just going to let somebody else pull him back. This is not something I should do. He's my teammate. I'm going to let him go. Nobody else went. Nobody else would go right.
Do you regret not going like right at the gun at all? Or
No, I don't.
You're good. You're happy.
Yeah, because that just wasn't the game plan for me. This was like a 2-hour race, and I couldn't have gone at that pace for 2 hours. There's no way. So I just I let Scott go. Scott got about 30 seconds up the road, and by the time we hit the first single track section, it was only me and Court. We lost everybody else. So it was just me and Court. But we start catching lap traffic and from previous waves, and we about 9 miles into the race, we had passed a guy that looked an awful lot like Scott Carroll, but he was a different teammate.
Yeah.
And so Court thought that we caught him. And so we get to the one climb, which was a bit of a crux in the race. And Court looks at me. He's like, "Okay, we're out front, so let's just work together and let's just sprint it out the end," because that's what me and Court do. We're pretty evenly matched.
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Court, Scott's up the road. We haven't got him yet." He's like, "What? Gosh dang it!" And so
Too many dial jerseys out there.
we probably had 30 teammates or 25 teammates racing, so we had a lot of dial jerseys out there, which was a lot of fun. But so Court kind of poured it on, and I couldn't quite hang with him. When he poured it on, I just couldn't quite hang with him. I was catching people on the technical stuff and on the single track and the downhills, but anywhere else I was getting caught. I ended up catching Scott with like a mile to go, but I didn't catch Scott so much that I got within like 10 seconds of him, but I couldn't ever close that final gap.
Yeah.
And
He knew exactly where you're at.
He saw me coming, and he was
he's a
turning it
strong
on.
guy, so I mean, he knows how to pace that. He's a smart bike racer.
It was awesome. So Scott Carroll ended up beating me by like 8 seconds.
Yeah.
I just couldn't quite close it.
I love his Zwift style start there, though.
It was a Zwift start.
And how many Zwift races has he done in the last 6 months?
Probably 30.
Probably
more than that?
Probably a lot more than that. Yeah.
Yeah.
He does them all the time, and he knows that drill all too well. Granted, those Zwift races aren't going to be an hour and 50 minutes long like this race was, but still, I mean, he's got that kind of in the bag, and he
Yes.
knows how to recover from that. So
it was awesome. I love racing with Scott. We had a great time. I barely made the podium, and I guess that's just fine with me. The rest of that race was fantastic. We had a lot of teammates who did really well. It was a good time to be out there with a lot of our teammates. It felt like a normal race because it was all outside. It was on the start area was on private land. You didn't have to wear masks at the start. We were able to mass start. It was
I
fun.
venture to guess that the vast majority of people who were in attendance there were probably already vaccinated.
Yes, I'm
so,
sure they were.
Yeah.
Yeah. Obra decided that they were not going to force people to show vaccination cards in order to race. They
That's
changed.
intelligent.
Yeah.
Yep.
There was some rumors that might happen, but that actually didn't come out. But yeah, so it was fun. Racing was fun.
Cool.
Yeah, that's enough of me.
My back pedal real quick before we get into our topic for the day. Just did normal stuff last week. We did the mountain bike ride, the little Tuesday night mountain bike ride, which was fun. And again, those little juniors still blow my mind.
Yeah.
They're still fantastic. Went out there and had a good time, rode a bunch of miles. We did the flogging ride. That was a blast. And then over the course of the weekend, it was a Memorial weekend, so it was all solo rides for me. Everybody was gone and out of town. So I was exhausted all weekend, so it was probably better for me just to kind of hang and do my thing.
Right.
So, not much really to report. Not racing bikes, not making anything out there worthy of telling more stories on. So
The flogging ride was good. We had a lot of people show up. Had some new people show up. So
we did. It was there was a lot of thread of rain there, so the group wasn't quite as big as it's been in the past, but it was still a good chunk of people. The A group was pretty well sized, and a lot of hitters out there, and so we went out and played bikes and had fun.
I didn't get dropped this week by the A group.
Good.
That was a miracle.
Nice.
Yeah.
So that was about that. We will do our Patreon stuff. We kind of forgot that last week. Oops. It was too many moving parts.
I put the thing on the table so I wouldn't forget.
The jar is out. So we'll do a Patreon drawing for that. We will do our lead out news and one last thing after our topic for today. And our topic is bike pedals. bike
pedals.
pedal. It seems like a mundane little benign thing to talk about. But when you think about it, I mean, there's 3 contact points on a bicycle, and they're all kind of important. And I think that pedals and cleat position and all that other stuff can really like do you a huge service, or it can be a major thorn in your backside. You can feel what Matt's feeling right now, right? And they can cause all kinds of issues. And I do get a lot of people who come in here to the lab and they just start asking like just basic questions like, why would I go with this pedal versus that pedal? And do I need a power meter based pedal? Do I need, what do I need? What's clipless versus clip versus flats versus?
Okay. Why do they call them clipless pedals? Because that's confusing for a lot of people. Because you call them clipless, even though you're clipping your foot in to a clip.
Does it make you sound like a noob if you say these are clip-in pedals?
These are probably
Clip-in?
Yeah.
I'm just gonna sound like a noob because I think when I'm trying to explain it to someone, and you're like, you clip into these pedals.
Yeah. Well,
I don't know.
It all kind of goes back into whenever they had the quote unquote toe clip. It looks more like a cage that you put your foot or your toe into so that you can kind of keep your pedal engaged with the pedal throughout the whole pedal stroke. Why did they call that a clip? You don't clip into that. You're kind of put.
There was a strap with a clip that held over the top of your
but
shoe.
You're not clipping in. You're just putting your toe into like a stirrup kind of thing. So why didn't they call them like stirrups? Or I don't know.
I'm very confused.
What do they call them on a horse? Like when you're riding a horse and you put your feet into the little things that hold your feet, that's called a stirrup. And that would make sense because it's got the little part over the top so you can kind of have more control and keep your foot in there so it doesn't fall off.
You're not stirruping in.
Well,
we're changing this. Dial's going to make the change.
Stirrupless.
We're going to go into
I think
Wikipedia and change it.
I have this theory that the stirrup style, and I know that that's not the right name for it, but that old school style of pedals would be great for triathlon because you get the benefit of like pulling up on the pedal and you can feel connected to the bike, and then you're in your race shoes already. Like,
right.
This needs to come back. People need to think about this, especially
you
sprint
might be onto
triathlons and stuff like that. I don't know. No one listens to me.
But I guess, well, they're such short races. I mean, I guess you don't necessarily need the
for a sprint.
You've got the carbon sole of a cycling pedal, so you're not going to be losing as much energy because you've got that hard stiff carbon sole that you're not going to have in your running shoes. So do you think that there would be something lost there, Matt, or do you think it's such a short race that it wouldn't matter?
Well, the thing is yes, I think first of all, they've done studies and you don't really lose that much or gain that much by, you'd think you would. I feel like the big thing that you gain is like more control or more connection to the bike, but you don't realize like you're putting on shoes. If that's, let's say you're pretty fast and you can do it in 20 seconds or something. 20 seconds is a lot of time in a sprint triathlon.
Yeah.
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 That's why you're racing a Speedo, and that's it.
You gotta go Speedo. You have to. Where's Mr. Price?
Where is Price?
We can't talk about Speedos without him.
He's out on the floor fixing people.
Fixing the broken folks.
Is that what he's doing?
Yeah. That stirrup style thing, though, they called that a toe clip, and that's where the clip thing came from. And then there's a lot of people that had a hard time getting in and out of that, a lot of bike crashes. And then somebody came up with this wild idea of like, well, let's put a little cleat on the bottom of your shoe and let you step into this pedal clip thing. And that became inevitably a clipless pedal because you didn't have that big toe clip, i.e. the stirrupy thing. So that's where the name clipless comes from. And it's just bad nomenclature, if you ask me, but it is what it is. And then
that was like Look back in the early '80s, right? That was like one of the big things at the tour was this Look team that had the pedals, clip-in pedals.
So we've got
if Price was here, he'd be going cycling history bonkers on us.
Yep, he probably still has a bike with toe clips on it.
Hey,
probably has a poster.
Run a microphone out there real quick and ask that kid. So, and then you've got flats. So a lot of people still like to ride flats, and there's still like a pretty good group of the cycling world that rides off road, and you've got a lot of your like just casual cyclists that ride flats, but a lot of people that prefer flats over a clipped pedal or clipless.
Yes.
Stupid words.
Clipless.
So let's run around the table real quick. Let's talk about the different pedals that we've used and what we're currently using. So Matt, what are you using? What kind of pedals do you have on your different bikes?
This is the problem that I have with our group. We don't have a great variety of pedals that the three of us use. The majority of what I use is a look style clip-in pedal, and I said clip-in. I also use the Egg Beater style. I think it's Crank Brothers is the brand name that I use if I am, either mountain biking, cyclocross kind of stuff, that kind of stuff. That's when I would use that pedal. And theoretically, maybe you get better power transfer with something like a Look compared to, something like Egg Beater. But I don't know, with the, carbon bike shoes that you have, part of me wonders is the benefit to being able to clip in on either side of the pedal itself, enough of a benefit that I should be looking past, something like the Looks that I use or the SPDs, which is basically kind of the same style, right? I don't know. I think that's an interesting discussion. I think everyone basically, whatever they learn on is what they just roll with for a long time.
Most likely, yeah.
And that's been my scenario. Is that's what I first tried. That's when you learn to clip in, and then you learn to fall over and get back up, brush yourself off, try it again until you kind of get that muscle memory pattern down. And that's a tough learning experience that we've kind of all been through. But that was with Look pedals, and I've just been on them ever since. Yeah. It also doesn't hurt that they're a very common, pedal pattern. And for example, Garmin has used that particular pedal up until now, when they have different power meter pedal options. But up until this year, Garmin probably for not 10 years, but it's probably been 6 or 7 years or whatever, has been making their vector pedals just with the Look style cleats and not other options. So I think it's kind of good to go with the standard, and that's fairly standard-esque for road. It would probably be weird if I was wearing, the Egg Beater style cleats or whatever pedals on my road bike. They probably would be fine. I doubt I would lose that much power, but it would be unusual.
It'd be unusual mostly because the shoes that go with those are much heavier and not as aerodynamic as the road shoes you would be.
But there's nothing to say that someone couldn't.
Nope.
A lot of you can probably set it up multiple ways, but there's nothing stopping some company from being like, we'll make whatever, and just wear whatever works. And I don't know. I would think that the bigger platform of something like a Look would be better power transfer. That's the theory. I don't know if people have really dove into that to study to say that it is one way or the other.
So you're talking about the idea of running a Look style pedal off road? Is that what you're saying?
No.
Or just
well,
in general?
I'm saying
the opposite.
Well,
of that.
I don't think I would do that because of the
on road.
Egg Beaters on the road.
Gotcha.
I think if you go the opposite direction, I think that Look style pedals or SPD. I think that those pedals are really, truly designed for road. They can handle road grime, all that stuff. But I think that this, pedals that are meant for mountain biking are built a little bit more with kind of durability in mind.
Yeah.
And probably less weight saving kind of stuff.
Yes.
The pedals that I have behind me on this bike are supposed to be, they're the Look ones with that little carbon fiber thing in there that's how it uses the tension. And it's those things are super light, but do I really need super, super light pedals? I don't know. I mean, some people are super into keeping their bikes as light as possible. I don't think I need that. But they work. They're fine. They're definitely not built for, going off-road or on trails or whatever. They'd probably be okay, but I don't know. I think going the other direction and I've had people say this before. They're saying, oh, you're learning to clip in. Get a mountain bike style pedal, put it on your road bike because you'll get used to clipping in. It's easier to clip in. And you'll never notice the power difference. And I don't have a strong argument to say you should probably stick with what's standard for road, which is, Look or SPD, or I don't know if I would suggest Speed Play. But
one of the biggest issues with using a mountain bike type pedal and shoes on the road is, especially if you're sprinting, you can pull those. You can pull those. You can pop them right out.
But here's the thing. Don't you think that there's similar or even more so maybe power output or sprinting for both true mountain bikers or cyclocross racers that use those types of clips?
But it's not as often, and it's usually a little bit more subdued power. It's not. Whereas on the road, You almost all your power transfers right to that pedal, so you could do a 1200 or a 14-watt sprint on the road. And when you're trying to do the same thing on a mountain bike or a cyclocross bike, because of the tires, because of the terrain, because of whatnot, the power it dissipates just a little bit more. So that top power might only be, even if it's 1200 watts, it's only like 1,000-watt transfer to the tire. I'm getting in the weeds here, but you understand what I'm saying.
I totally understand what you're saying, but you almost need to have that pedal, that off-road pedal, be something where you can get out a little bit easier. It's going to unclip a little bit easier so that you can dab, so that you can put your foot down, so that you can save yourself from going off the side of a cliff or all kinds of stuff like that. And that just happens all the time. It's a little bit more, I mean, the more you ride, and you and I have put in so many miles on the bike, let's be honest, that we're going to get out of both pedals really quickly. Probably a lot faster than your average bear. And that's pretty typical of a lot of cyclists, but you can get out just a little bit easier with that other pedal.
With those mountain bike type pedals,
and like Lance was saying, though, when you're in a sprint situation, if I'm going to be in a sprint finish and I'm putting down 12, 13, 14, 1,500 watts, the chances or the likelihood of my road pedal coming unclipped, despite everything, like it's not a perfectly linear thing. You're moving laterally a lot, side to side. When you get down and you look at the frame by frame motion of a cyclist going through a sprint finish, there's a lot of movement there. If you take that same movement and you put in an off-road cleat, they're likely going to come out.
There's more likely it's going to pop loose. Yeah.
You get to the point where you know where to position your feet and you don't even think about it, so that they don't do that. So that like if you are in a sprint kind of situation in a road or the mountain bike stuff, it's not going to just pop out and you go flying over the bars. But you start to develop that knack, but it's still, there's a likelihood of it happening. I've even had my foot come unclipped. You had it happen just on a flogging ride.
Like a month ago.
It was just because your pedal was just a tiny bit too loose.
I had the tension set too loose, and I pulled my road cleat right out of the pedal and landed on the top tube.
Yeah. So, but to go back to Matt's point, it's perfectly fine to use any of them, and it would be hard pressed to, like, for your standard person, even somebody that's doing big events, like they want to do a 100-mile local charity bike event or something like that. It doesn't matter what kind of pedal you're on. If you're riding clipped in, you're definitely going to be, having an advantage over somebody on flats, but you can even go ride it on flats if you want to.
Let me also make it clear that you will at some point not clip out in time and fall over.
Okay, how about this? Tell your story. Your first time. Can you remember the very first time that happened to you? Because I can clear as day remember mine. And it was ugly. And
I have two very good stories about that.
Go ahead.
One was, the first time was the first ride.
Okay.
Very first ride, I'm on my clipless pedals, and they were speed play pedals, actually, because for whatever reason, when I started triathlon, I started with speed play. And I'm on my road bike, and I'm pulling up to the very first stop sign, and I just, I tilted my weight to the wrong side and took the wrong foot out and fell right over. So, of course it happens. The other good story that happened to me was after a race at PIR. I just had done this whole race where I did the whole thing, and I performed pretty well, and I'm feeling all good about myself. I think I made the top 3 in the final sprint, and I pull up to celebrate with my buddies, and promptly fell straight over on the side because I didn't pull my foot out.
That one was recent, right?
It was like 2 years
2 years ago?
3 years ago.
I feel like I remember that.
Fell right over, and that's after a ton of experience with.
That's where you got to play that off and make it look like you did that on purpose. You just keep cheering on the ground, Just
I tore skin off, and I sat up and I am an idiot. That's
hilarious.
It's so funny.
How about you, Matt?
Yeah, actually, first time I used clipless pedals or clip-in pedals, whatever you want to call it. I went for, I think just a loop around Lacamas Lake, maybe.
Sure.
And it was like, all right, went through the whole ride, nervous about knowing full well that there's a good chance that I would fall over. And I got back to my house. We didn't live in this house at the time, but I got back to my house, and it was still a cul-de-sac right in the middle in front of all my neighbors. And in my mind, I'm like, I did it, dude. I got this. And, then it's like the, and slow
fall
tumble.
over.
Yeah. And I was sore the next day, and I was like, yeah, I just, you just tip straight over, and that's how it goes. I'm sure I fell in addition to that, but I remember that one clearly just because I remember thinking, like, I made it, and then I didn't. And it was so visible because the neighbors were it was like right in the middle of the circle of the cul-de-sac, just tip over.
Well, if it's going to happen,
those falls are funny.
Yeah, if it's going to happen, it's you pulling up to a stoplight where there's 50 cars around and they're all watching.
Everyone
you
watches.
Fall over. It's happened to me too.
Mine was I had a mountain bike, and this is when I was in high school. I think I was a senior in high school, and I used to ride that bike everywhere. And I was just the one. There was like one guy that would sometimes go for a ride with me, maybe another guy, but I used to like 15, 20, 25 miles on my mountain bike, and I'm usually riding on the road, and it was just because I enjoyed it so much. So I'm like, I need to get different pedals. I went out and got myself some clipless pedals.
Do you remember which ones they were?
Yeah, they were the Welgo, and they were the like where you have. So Welgo uses like the Shimano cleat, like a mountain bike style cleat, and you can clip in on one side, and it was a regular flat pedal on the other side. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to kill two birds, one stone here. And the bike company was Welgo, and I think they still make pedals to this day. Anyway, that's near here and there. So I'm riding clipped in, right, and I'm thinking, all right, this is going to be. And the other thing is, I went down to the Pacific Coast Highway, so I'm riding down in Encinitas, and I don't know if anybody knows where Encinitas is at, but it's in like a beautiful part of town,
north of San Diego. We've ridden through there even on our team training camps, and I'm down there on the Pacific Coast Highway. When you get down into little beach cities, there's like stoplights and there's bike lanes and all that other stuff, but there's a lot of traffic. And so I'm clipped in, and I'm riding, and I'm trying to pay attention to the traffic, trying not to get hit by a car. And I'm so like obsessed with making sure that I'm minding all my P's and Q's and not getting in the way. I pulled up to a stop light, right, because it just changed. And I pulled up there, and I was too busy looking around. I'm like, oh, I got to clip out. And I couldn't get my foot out. And I fell over in the intersection in front of probably 50 cars and people standing on the sidewalk trying to crosswalk. And I'm like, what a freaking idiot. You could see people laughing, and I'm like, yeah, it's going to happen.
That's even harder at high school, the high school age where you're like, pride is, I mean, I guess it's hard anytime.
Yeah, dent your ego just a little bit.
People, it's going to happen to you. It happens to everybody. Yeah. It happens to everybody.
Yeah, that's what we have to tell people all the time. And I deal with it all the time. So telling people, hey, it's not if but when you're going to fall over.
You're going to fall over.
Yeah. It just makes for a good story. Just remember that moment. So. Right. All right. So getting back into this, Matt kind of went through the pedals that he's using. He's got the Look style road. He's got the Crank Brothers Egg Beater style on his off-road. How about you, Lance?
I rode for years on Speedplay, like we talk about, but I switched to the Garmin Vector pedals on my road bike 2 years ago.
Okay.
2.5 years ago.
Wow, just 2 years ago.
Yeah,
you've only been on that Look style for 2 years.
Yes, and
did they feel different? Because I need to learn how to use Speedplay just for testing stuff on the channel.
I tell you what, they're way easier to clip in and clip out of than the Speedplay ones, and I find that the pedal platform is bigger on the Vectors or on the Look style than on Speedplay. So I feel like
it's like tricky to get your foot right where it needs to be.
Yeah, especially if you've got any grit or sand in that little ring.
What about getting out of them? Because that's what I'm scared of. I don't want to like fall over relearning how to clip in and out of Speedplay.
Oh, it'll happen, Matt. You'll fall over.
Shoot. I don't. What if I tape pillows to my body? Is that a good idea?
That's a good idea.
Bunch of Charmin to you, yeah. Well, you can adjust.
You can adjust the tension,
the tension, and the disengagement point, if you will. So you can make it so where it's super simple to get out, or you can make it to where you really have to externally, or I guess it would be internally rotate your foot.
One thing I liked about the Speedplay pedals is that they're double-sided. You can clip in on either side of the pedal. And the Look styles, there's only one side.
Yeah, but to that point, go ahead. You're probably going to say it.
Yeah, I was nervous that was going to be an issue. Guess what? It's not an issue at all.
It's a little bit of an issue. I promise you guys don't clip in perfect every time.
No, not every time.
When you stop and you unclip, the back end of the pedal is weighted because that's where all the tension is at. So it's always set up in that right position. It's not a perfectly up and down perpendicular position, but it's kind of sitting at an angle. It's not 45 degrees. It's just it's between like 45 and 90 somewhere, maybe like 65 or 70 degrees. And it's really simple for you just to bring your foot up and drag it across, and the toe part of the cleat engages very easily. It's not terribly difficult to get in there.
My point was that I prefer the look style much more to the speed play, and if I hadn't have switched over, I wouldn't have known that it was a difference. But I prefer the look style mostly because like the platform is just bigger. I feel more stable on the pedal, and I feel like I have less hot spots in my shoes. Now maybe that's because my other shoes with speed plays didn't have a really solid carbon fiber sole.
Yeah.
That could have had something to do with it, but I do like the look better than the speed play.
I'd have to agree. I've ridden all those as well. I mean, I've ridden, just about every kind of style of pedal you can think of with pedal platforms, and that's the one that I come back to. That's the one that I like the most.
Yeah.
I just feel like it's the most stable. I feel like it's easy to get in and out of. I feel like when you're putting your foot down on it, and if you have it properly positioned in place, I get the best power transfer. I just feel like it's a very stable platform for disbursement of the power through the pedal. That's just my 2 cents, but that's my experience.
On my mountain bike and cross bikes and gravel bikes, I do SPD type pedals.
Off-road version, yep.
I don't do the egg beaters. I do the SPDs mostly because I started with SPDs, and that's just where I've just always used them.
I think that, we talked about like what's the standard. I think that's probably more of a standard than the egg beater style, although it seems like more and more people are going the egg beater style direction, but I don't know. I still think,
the
more
advantage,
SPD pedals sell than comparison.
I think you're right. I think the SPD style is a little more stable than the egg beater, but the egg beater sheds mud so much better than the SPD style. Now,
it's easier to get into. Way
it is,
easier to get into.
because there's like 4 sides you can get in on. Whereas the SPDs, they are reversible, one side or the other. But there's only been a handful of times where the shedding of mud issue became important, and it's always been in cross races because cyclocross, you're getting off and you're running, and if it's a muddy, nasty, cold race, your cleat can fill with junk and your pedal can fill with junk, and sometimes it's harder to clip in with SPDs. And in those situations, the egg beaters are better, but I still have never used them.
Can you make a case for sticking with the Shimano style off-road SPD cleat? Can you make a case for it over the egg beater?
It has a wider platform, so you have better power transfer than with egg beater.
Crank Brothers does have other options for you.
Yeah, I guess Crank Brothers do.
Right.
They do have ones with.
They've got the Candy, which has the platform.
around
with
it.
the built-in
That's right.
like egg beater
I
style.
wonder if that Candy style collects more mud, though.
It probably
one
does.
of the benefits
I'm sure it
using
does.
those.
Yeah.
But it's still pretty easy to get out because I did use the Candies for a while.
Did you?
Granted, I didn't do a lot of the cyclocross stuff back in the day, but I still had plenty of times where I was out there riding in muddy situations. You get it on there, and what you do is you just smack your foot on the pedal, and
Yeah.
it gets it off, and then you just clip right in and you go. But that's kind of what you're doing with the SPD,
The same
right?
thing happens with the SPD. If I can't clip in, you pull your foot out and you bang your foot against the cleat, and enough mud clears that you can clip back in.
Yeah.
Or you're going for your pick bike.
There you go. Have you ever ridden the Crank Brothers?
I haven't. Nope.
No Candies. No experience.
I
with
have
the Crank
no experience with Crank
egg beaters,
Brothers.
huh?
Yeah.
Gotcha. I never rode on. Well, it's kind of funny because I rode on Crank Brothers ever since I really got into mountain biking. So this was probably, maybe like mid 2000, like 2005, 4, somewhere in there. Like my first clipped-in pedal that was other than that Welgo
Right.
one that I was talking about. But when I started doing a lot more like conditioning and training and riding and racing, it was always on the Crank Brothers. So that's where all of my experience was at. Excuse me. I did a race. It was called they say it's not a race, but it's a race because they have finish line and times and all that other stuff. But it was called the Ride for Rwanda. It's down in Southern California, and it's a big ride. That's a 50-mile mountain bike ride. That's a race, and there was a lot of people that would show up to this. I mean, it'd be thousands of people that would show up to this race. It was big, and we were down there, and I wanted to be the first one to finish, the first one to cross the finish line and make it happen. And I was hammering, going so hard, and it really boiled down to there was 3 of us. It was me, another guy, I can't remember his name, and the third guy was actually in a single speed, but he was like a state champion, like Cat 2 single speed guy that was just crazy, wicked, strong, and fast. And Matthew Palmer, if my memory serves me correct, was his name. Anyway, we're duking it out. We're probably 30 miles into this thing, and I put some time into them. I was leading. I was out front of everybody, and the crank brother, the egg beater, the little engagement points where you click into, the spring on that broke.
Oh.
And there's nothing to clip into. So in essence, I've got a mountain bike shoe with a cleat on it, and I'm pushing down on the spindle.
That's no good.
Because that's all it is.
Yeah.
And so your foot slides off. It's all over the place doing its thing. Well, that's the only time that I've really had an issue. Well, I've had one other issue, but that's neither here nor there, that I've ever had a real true issue with the Crank Brothers. And so I get up to the next aid station, and Shimano was actually supporting this. They were like one of the title sponsors, and they were at some of the aid stations. And by chance, I pull up there, and they had a mechanic, and I'm like, does anybody have a pedal? And the guy's like, yeah, I got some in my car. So he ran to the car real quick. And then I got off the bike, and these guys were so cool. They took my bike. They took everything off. They took my shoe.
What?
They're putting on a new cleat. They're putting on a new pedal. And meanwhile, I'm getting hydration and getting a quick bite to eat. And the guy the single speed guy that was my nemesis in that passes me. He's like, what happened? I'm like, my pedal broke. He's oh, I'm sorry, bro. He's like, gonna keep going. See you at the finish. Yeah. And so they got me set up. Got that pedal on there. I clipped in, and at that point in time, I was probably 5 minutes behind him.
Make it up.
With 20 minutes to go, I made up the time.
Jake, of course you did.
And I caught him towards the end on a climb, just like went blasting by him. He's like, oh, my God. But that was my first interaction with those. And the one thing that I noticed, and I don't know if you how much, because I really haven't done too much riding with them, with the SPD style off-road cleat, is the amount of float that was in there. It felt like my foot was much more locked into position, and I felt like I really couldn't get any float going on there. Do you have a lot of adjustability with the
there
float?
There is adjustability with the float, and you can buy cleats with different floats in them. Yeah.
Versus the Crank Brothers, I just feel like it's like perfect for me. It's like just enough float. It's easy to get in and out. It's easy to unclip and put your foot back in and not really lose a lot of momentum. So
I feel like there's a lot of float on the Crank Brothers.
There is, but you're not. I don't.
But
think
you're
it's
used to it.
I'm used to it.
Jake's used to it.
It's not a bad thing. I actually kind of use that to my advantage, and I can't think of many times where I've unclipped. I mean, I've raced in those things. I've done short track in those things. I've done cyclocross and gravel races and all kinds of craziness. I can't think of a single time that I've come unclipped where I didn't want to. So that kind of makes a point to Matt in terms of like the sprinting thing, because there have been plenty of times where I've had to sprint.
And it still worked.
Yeah.
I have on an SPD style pedal. I have broken a spring on it as well in a mid race as well, and couldn't. But now, see, here was the issue with that. I broke the spring. I broke the pedal mid race. It was a cyclocross race, but I was still able to clip in on the other side.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
But every time I got off and had to run a barrier or something,
chance,
I had to if it wouldn't clip in, I had to flip the pedal over and I could get it to clip back in. Yeah,
that's interesting.
So that was something else that would go.
Matt, you got a visitor who needs to say hi?
Is it Dash?
Dash wanted to know if he could have a popsicle. What do you guys think?
You can have all the popsicles. All the popsicles.
The jury says yes.
Just bring your dad one too.
Yes.
Right on. So, did you finish saying everything that you used?
Yeah, just the fact that I've been really happy with the SPD style thing. Sure. And now that Garmin has come out with a power-based SPD pedal, these rally pedals, which are new this year, which you can't get anywhere because they've all sold out everywhere.
Unless you shop at the Dialed Cycling Lab.
We still have a few.
Got a couple, yep.
But that's a great option. So
we lost Matt.
I'm not super.
Is my voice still here? But my
your
video's
voice
not?
is still here. Yeah,
correct, Matt.
You can hear my lovely voice. That's all you need.
Got a cool little color block over there on the live stream of YouTube. Anyway, finish what you're saying.
That my camera gave out.
I'm not super stoked on pedal-based power meters. I'd rather have a cork or a crank-based power meter than pedal-based power meters. But in some cases where you have several bikes and being able to switch power meters just by switching pedals between bikes, I see the draw in it.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't know. I guess the Vectors have had a lot of battery and battery door issues. And the Garmin Vectors, and they've improved those drastically over the years. But
I'm just curious to see how things go with the Rally, because I figure, when they came out with the Vector 3, the power meter. I kind of was under the impression that they kind of worked out all their kinks in the 2 prior generations, and they had a bunch of issues with those.
Not nearly as many as the 2s or the 1s.
Correct.
The ones were
brutal. Yeah.
Yeah.
But to Garmin's defense, they stepped up. They owned everything, and
Yeah.
they took care of everybody. Whether that was sending you internals, sending you battery doors, sending you brand new pedals.
Yes.
They were taking care of you to the nth degree. They wanted to make sure that you were happy. So
Yeah.
that part was good.
Every time I had a problem with, I had bought Vector 2s, but I have Vector 3s now because Garmin ended up sending me new ones when
Yeah.
I had trouble, so it all worked.
Yeah. And now they've got the new rally pedals. So I'm
Yeah.
hoping that 4th time's the charm, right?
That's what you think. That's what you hope.
But so far, so good. I mean, I know that we've got a couple people that are out using the off-road style, the SPD off-road style pedal, and they've chimed back in and let me know that they are fantastic. They're a little bit heavier, but they're also a power meter,
Yeah.
and they love them. And a few other guys, once they got them set up, have really enjoyed the road-based version as well.
Right.
So that could be good. And like you said, that's a good pedal to have if you've got multiple bikes and you need to basically be able to transfer that across all bikes.
This became an issue for me a couple years ago, actually, because I didn't have a power meter on my gravel bike.
Correct.
And I wanted the power data for a gravel race I was doing, so I used my Garmin Vectors, my Garmin Vector 2s and put them on my gravel bike. Well, those are road cleats.
Yep.
And my road shoes. And of course, I did a gravel ride where I ended up having to get off and run for a mile.
Oh my gosh.
It threw the dirt and mud in my road cleats.
How long did those cleats last? I mean, did they break or did they wear off all of the connection points, or were they smoked after that?
Yep, they were smoked. I had to replace the cleats after that.
Oh, that's a bummer.
And now I have a crank-based power meter on my gravel bike, and so that didn't become an issue. But that was one of the reasons why I got those pedal-based power meters initially, was because I switched them between my road bike and my gravel bike every time I were riding one, until I bought another power meter because it's expensive. You're trying to keep costs down, you know?
Yeah, you own a lot of power meters, my friend.
Yeah, I have a lot of power meters.
So if someone were to come up to you guys, and I'm sure they do quite often, and ask you, hey, I'm getting into this whole cycling thing, or I've been riding for a little bit, and I am on flat pedals right now, but I want to ride clipped in. What pedal are you going to recommend to them for the road? What's going to be your go-to pedal that you're going to recommend to them that you think?
I
that they're
think
gonna
what you
best
do
with?
is you tell people what you're familiar with, which is just happens to be what all of us ride, and it's not necessarily the right thing or the wrong thing. I don't think that any of us would be like, go speed play. First of all, speed play is expensive. I don't know if that's I just don't know. I think that all of us would probably be like, well, we know Look. We're familiar with Look.
Yeah.
That's what we do. And if they were like, I want to ride cyclocross, we'd be like, go Crank Brothers. I mean, because that's what I'm familiar with. I mean,
And
I
would
might
say
even
SPD
mention,
because that's what
and
I'm
you would say
familiar
SPD.
with. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't, it's not like I would even say like, well, I might say something like, well, SPD is a great option, or this is what I use, and this works great. Yeah, I don't think I would feel passionately about making a recommendation, if that makes any sense.
Can you make a case for, say, Look versus the Shimano Road SPD?
No.
No, they're basically the same.
They seem so similar.
They're-
I mean, I think the look seems like it's a little bit wider. I don't
It's
know.
actually the other way around. The Shimano's a little bit bigger of a pedal, or not pedal,
it?
but it is actually a bigger pedal, and it's a bigger cleat. So
Yeah.
I think it's a little bit more clunky almost to say, but that almost might make it a little bit easier for somebody to get that pedal engagement, because if you're dealing with a smaller pedal, smaller cleat, it's just
Right.
less contact area. But I don't know, I'd have to ride both of them. I always lean towards telling people, look, that's the best way to go.
I'm same. I like the Look pedal. Even after riding speed play for years, I prefer the. I remember we had a conversation when I was about to switch over, and I'm like, I don't want to switch away from speed play. I'm like used to it, and you're like, dude, just try it.
Yeah.
And I'm sold. I haven't gone back.
I think the speed play are great for people that have very specific needs. And I don't think it's a bad setup. I just think it's probably a little bit more difficult to engage. I think it's a little bit more difficult to set up. There's a lot of adjustment that go into it. And people start looking at those and they're like, oh my gosh, there are so many screws and adjustments and positions and all that other stuff. So it's almost like if you're working with a pro bike fitter, or if you're very familiar with them, yeah, they're going to work great. But if it's just a newbie coming off the street, I'm not going to send them to that. You know, it's more of like, all right, here's your basic look keel cleat with your basic look keel pedal. This is how it engages. That's it. And then there's 3 different colors, and those all correspond to a different style of float. And then once you get the cleat on there, there's only 3 screws, and it's just like you show them how to align that and where to put it in relation to the ball of their foot, and then off they go. It's a pretty simple, straightforward.
It's a simpler system for sure, but you know, maybe that's what people should do is like, hey, I'm using look and I'm having knee pain or whatever, and I'm interested in trying, like, that's maybe at the point where you start to look around and say like, okay, well, my next recommendation for you is to try something where you can, you know, adjust float a little bit more, adjust pedal position, and maybe speed play or something like that is a better option for having more adjustability.
Right.
And yeah, I know that there are lots of different things and shims and things like that a lot of people do for lots of different pedal systems.
Yeah.
But, you know, again, talk to your bike fitter, and they may have recommendations that way also.
Sure. Yeah, and you mentioned something like the shims. I mean, that's a really easy thing to adjust with them. And our bodies are not perfect. We are not perfectly symmetrical. We're not all injury-free. We're not all, like, built to be these little motors that sit on top of these bicycles, and we have, like, flaws. And that's one of the things that I do like about the look. Not the look, but the speed play setup is it is a lot easier to address this thing. Granted, you can still do it with like the look pedals. You can still put shims in there and whatnot, but it just makes it a little bit easier, especially for a bike fitter to go on there and start making these tweaks and adjustments.
Right.
So, very cool. Anything else that you guys want to say about the road style stuff? Like what recommendation you're going to make to them? I mean, in my opinion, there's kind of just your big 3 that are like true to just being road specific. You've got, you know, look, you've got specialized. Not specialized. You've got. I need to eat something, you guys. I'm sorry. You get Shimano,
Shimano look.
SPD, and then you've got the speed play. So those are your big 3, and we're all going to lean towards look. I think all 3 of them are good. I think that there is a hierarchy there, though. But what about the mountain bike side of things, or the off road side of things? Where are you guys going to lean? You're going to go SPD again.
I'm going SPD because that's what I'm used to.
And Matt's used to the Crank Brothers, right? And I still am going to go with Crank Brothers as well. And I can give you my reasons, which I kind of already have alluded to. I just think that it's a superior system. Just my 2 cents. Yeah. So, I think they're a great company, too. I think those pedals are a lot easier to service. I think that they stand behind the pedals pretty well, but then so does Shimano. But just the notion of being able to clean the bearings, service the bearings, tighten everything down. You can replace those springs that if they break. And I've only broke 1 set of them, and I've been riding them for, almost 20 years now.
I have pedal struck rocks so hard with those and haven't done any damage to my speed play pedals.
Built like little army tanks. They are pretty tough.
Yeah, they are pretty tough.
Do you guys want to talk about like cleat placement? That's another thing. It's like, all right, well, you've got this this great pedal system. You've got these cleats that go on your shoe. A lot of people just bolt them and start going. Do you guys want to talk about like the specifics of where we bolt these things to and why?
This is no. I just bolt them and start going.
That's exactly what I do too, Lance.
I don't have any idea. I just whatever was on there before. When I get a new pair of shoes, I just bolt them in the same spot because I guess that's what my body's used to.
Sure.
Yeah. I'm weird. I grab like a permanent marker and like outline my cleat so that I can put it in the exact same spot.
Right same spot.
Go look at all of my cleats or all my shoes and you'll see the same little outline there. It's like a cleat dyed, you know what I mean?
Like, I think this exactly. This worked. And then it's like stick with it.
My cleats are all shoved like all the way forward. Or all the way back. See, I can't remember which it is, but it's one of those where it's all the way forward or all the way back.
It's usually all the way back.
It might be all the way back, and then I just crank it down and go.
Yeah. And when you look at the bottom of a shoe too, there's generally on the nicer shoes, you're going to see all the little measurement points. So you have kind of have an idea of where everything's at in relation to. But like Matt said, you can put the little Sharpie outline on it. That works pretty slick. But it really does become important to make sure that it's set up so that your legs are pointed in the right direction. Right. You don't want a toe to be in or out, and it doesn't take much to skew that. I mean, if you're off by a millimeter and you're up towards your toe box, that's going to kick your heel out a lot more than a millimeter because it projects out,
right?
And then all of a sudden you're going to start to develop some knee pain. Or if you're cleat is too far forward and all of a sudden you're pushing down with your toes too much, you might start to develop like a hot spot in the arch of your foot. You might get some calf cramps. But if you're also too far back and you're like in the arch of your foot, again, hot spots, or you're going to lose power transfer. So it's really important to make sure that you find that little happy medium spot. Do you guys have like a system for how you guys set that up?
I don't. I think all the ligaments in my knees and hips and legs are all so stretched out that they don't get sore anymore.
How about you, Matt?
Yeah, I just try to, like I said, keep it consistent with what's worked in the past. And, I do feel like you can feel a little bit of alignment issues. Like if you put on a new cleat and it feels like it's tilted or twisted the wrong direction, like because we've biked enough that our legs feel when things are off alignment wise, and you can make those little minor tweaks. And it's usually just because you tighten one bolt, tighter down than another one, and it kind of gave it a little bit of a twist. And when I look at my cleat pattern, it looks to me like they're kind of tilted weirdly inward or something like that. But when I look down at my foot, it's going straight along the bike. So I don't know.
It's just the way your body has adjusted to it or made it work.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? But I just stick with it, and I'm just, when I get a new pair of shoes, it's kind of like there's some play, like I play around with it for a little while, and I am due for a new pair of shoes. It's been at least 3 or 4 years.
Oh.
So
I
need shoe recommendations.
I break shoes too often. I really like the Euro shoes. I've had really good luck with those. But here's another thing: when you get new shoes and you put brand new cleats on a new set of shoes, if that first ride you go out to do with those new cleats on, you need to make sure you bring your multi-tool with you. Yeah. Because this has happened to me where I've cranked them down really hard thinking, they're on there, they're solid. And then I go ride, and within like 3 miles, the whole cleat is just a little bit loose. So I end up having to really, stop, pull over, pull my multi-tool out and really crank that thing down.
Well, and I also think that, like, one of the things is, riders may start to hear squeaking noises or whatever, and they don't realize that it's coming from their shoe, because those squeaky noises kind of like, it seems like they're coming from somewhere in the middle of your bike. You never know, but it just happens to be the cleat. Like sometimes it's because it's an old cleat, and sometimes it's because it's a brand new cleat, but they tend to be a little bit more squeaky when you first start, when you first crank them on there. And I was like, you hear a friend's bike squeak and they're like, I don't know where this is coming from. I'm like, and you notice new cleats on there. I'm like, it's simple. Check the cleat. It's one of the easiest things to just tighten down and see if it's better. So.
Right.
Tighten, clean. Don't put grease on there. Probably not a good idea because it comes a little too slippery and you can actually clip out a lot easier than you were intending.
Yes.
But I have seen...
Do you don't grease the threads on your shoes?
The threads, yes, but I'm talking about the actual cleat, because sometimes just the engagement of the cleat on the pedal, you can get some debris that's on the pedal that you think, I'm going to put some grease on there so that it's like a smoother surface and it's not going to make
it
noise.
too smooth.
It's usually just like do a good job of cleaning the cleat, and not the cleat and the pedal itself. So
interesting. Yeah.
Gotcha. All right. Cool. Sorry, there's people calling and coming in, and I'm trying to multitask
Wednesday.
here. It's Wednesday. We're supposed to be doing this on Monday. Dang it. All right. Well, let's talk. One other thing. Did you guys talk about float? They've probably heard us mention float. What float is?
No.
You guys didn't. Go ahead. I know the answer. Everybody knows the answer. But
float is just how much your foot rotates clockwise or counterclockwise before the clip disengages.
Correct.
So you can buy cleats with zero float, which means your foot is locked in. It doesn't rotate clockwise or counterclockwise at all. I don't like zero float. I like.
What do you guys use?
Do
we all use same gray, whatever
gray,
the gray
6
one
degree.
is?
Gray,
yeah.
6 degree.
Yeah, we all use the same thing. We are such a boring podcast.
Well, a lot of
We
times
need some people. Actually, you know what, guys? You guys are all wrong. Don't use gray.
Don't use gray.
You have to go zero
Black.
or the. I think red is the one where it's just like tons
9
of
degrees.
float.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, do you want to
Gotta
talk
use one
about
of those.
why people would want float?
I
guys
don't know.
Okay, so
so
a
please
lot of,
tell me.
A lot of times, because we're not perfect, and like if we were perfect and our bodies were perfectly symmetrical and we didn't have any muscle imbalances and our bodies were able to work through this plane like perfectly,
Right.
we wouldn't need to have any float because our heel wouldn't move at all. So if you've got somebody that's got like a knee issue or a hip issue, they'll make little tiny adjustments there. Like if you're a little tight in the hip, you're going to maybe externally rotate your femur a little bit, which is going to cause your knee to kind of follow a different trajectory. It's going to kind of almost make like little micro circles, if you will, when you're pedaling around,
Right, I
just
see,
to kind of
yeah.
to get that power, and then that translates down to your heel, making a little bit of movement as well to compensate for that. And the next thing you know, you've got your toe box that needs to move as well, and that's why they have float. Most of us ride with the gray because we need just a little bit of that because we're not perfect, and it's one of those things. If you're not careful, I mean, you could ride with it, but you could actually cause yourself pain because you're going to have to work against that. So all of a sudden, like that hip issue is going to cause the knee to be the weak joint of the whole thing, the weak link of the whole thing. You're going to develop knee pain, and you're going to be like, why is my knee hurt from riding my bike? Well, it might have to do with the fact that it's your hip, but it's actually starting at your foot. So
Yes.
Do you
that makes
think
sense.
most people? Do you really think that most people use the gray? Do you think it's the most popular one?
I think red is the most popular, to be honest with you.
I was wondering.
I
would
that's
think,
just from what I've seen and what I've ordered for
I would think it
people.
would be like popularity wise would be like red, then gray, then black.
That's
my
100%.
And I'm just completely guessing.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Yeah, you're 100% right.
Red being the most float.
Float, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just it's the most comfortable to get into. It might for some people be a little off-putting because your foot can keep turning and keep turning. Like,
Before
when's
it
this thing
comes
going
out.
to come out?
Yeah.
You know, and you just kind of learn it. But eventually, you can get there. But then you get those people and you realize that they don't have a true need to be that much. You put them on the gray, they're like, oh, I like that a lot better. That's nice.
Yeah.
It comes out a little bit easier, and I still have the float that I need. We're good to go. But you also have to get those set up right because sometimes they'll set their foot up in there, and they've got the float, but they're going to set up to one extreme, one side or the other, where your foot's in line, but you maybe you're missing a little bit more of that float that you kind of want. So that's where it becomes perfect. Not perfect, but a priority to make that cleat be positioned correctly. You want to have the right amount of play on both sides.
That makes sense.
Makes sense?
Yeah.
Cool. Anything else that you guys want to talk about with respect to pedals? Pedal talk.
This
Anything?
has been pedal talk.
Pedal talk.
It's not the same as mustache talk, you know?
Look at my glorious mustache.
Yeah. Well, one last thing. We'll talk about the shoes because you'll look under a lot of shoes, and that's where it's going to tell you what kind of a cleat you can put on there. There are shoes that you can put all cleats on there. There are some shoes where you can put just road cleats on there,
Right.
and there's some shoes where you can just put on the off-road cleat. So that's something that you're going to want to pay attention to as well. If you're looking to do a certain thing, you're going to I finally got my cleats that I want, and then you go out and buy, these are the shoes I want, and you go put them together, and like, womp, womp, womp. Doesn't work because they just don't go together.
Yeah.
So you got to make sure that you pay attention to that as well. That triple hole setup in the on the road it's a pretty solid
It's
setup.
pretty solid, yeah.
So I like that. I don't know if there's anything else that I want to talk about here, unless you guys want to chit chat about anything. Matt, you got anything?
Watches.
Nah.
I'm all about, I'm all about the old watches. In bike computers, we talked about, I think on the last podcast, I've got a whole bunch of bike computer videos coming out soon. If I can get around to making them, which the middle of the night's not working. So,
Yep. Gotcha. Yeah, your videos came out today. I think they're good, Matt.
thank
Just
you.
relax. Shutter speed. Don't worry about it.
It's all going to be okay.
Live and learn. I mean, we're all learning
all
here.
going to be good.
You'd think I would have learned that a long time ago, but yes.
All right.
We're all learning.
Let's put a fork in the pedal talk, and let's go ahead and jump into the lead out news.
Ooh.
Do we want to do the whole
Champ Bailey here.
this guy?
I put my pants on.
There's your intro right there.
All right.
What's up, champ?
Lots of stuff happened last week. The Giro d'Italia finished up. And
Giro
the
d'Italia.
Giro, and guess who won?
Yeah, Bernal.
Egon Bernal.
Egan Bernal won by just about a minute. So he kind of started to blow apart one day, but his teammates rallied him, and
Hold him back.
he did well enough in the final time trial that he won by about a minute.
That's not a killing in a 3-week Grand Tour. A minute is, that's
It's not
showing
that-
some weakness.
Correct. But is the Giro, it's
not the Tour.
Yeah. The great story was second place was Damiano Caruso, who is a domestique for his Bahrain teammates, and they let him be the leader at this race, and he ended up second.
Really?
Yes, he's been around pro cycling for years and years and years, and he's always been, one of the super domestiques.
Yep.
And
Give him a chance to shine there.
he gave him a chance to shine. I think their team leader crapped out like at the beginning of the race. I should know more. I'm showing my weakness as a sportscaster.
We need Price here again.
We need
Price
Price
really.
here.
Price is the one that let us down. Okay,
But he ended up taking second, which is fantastic. And third was Simon Yates. So he kind of held on.
Simon Yates.
Yeah. So he's still doing okay.
when are we going to do our tour prediction video?
You know what? That's coming up really soon.
Probably
'Cause,
3 weeks.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, 3 weeks.
We need to do it within the next 3 weeks.
I think we'll do it
Yep.
like 1 to 2
2
weeks
weeks.
out.
Yeah.
1 to 2 weeks out.
Yeah.
So in a
Well,
couple
'cause
weeks out.
here's the problem: if you don't do it closer to the tour, people get injured like right before the tour,
Yeah,
either
right.
Dauphiné or whatever. Like things happen, and some people are out. You learn about that stuff like the first day of the tour sometimes. So it's kind of tricky to make a big prediction list and be like, "Yep,
Yeah.
Roglic isn't even gonna do the race." So,
Right.
you know.
Right. Didn't that happen last year?
I don't know.
Something like that, yeah.
The Dauphiné is also going on right now,
Yep.
and there's a lot of big hitters that are there. Geraint Thomas and Chris Froome, and
How's Froome looking? I haven't been paying attention to that, and I know they're always
Not
talking about he's
good.
coming around, he's working on getting himself in shape, and
Today
I did
was-
see like he's gonna prep himself for the tour.
today was the fourth stage,
Uh-huh.
and it was a time trial, and Froome lost 2 minutes
2 minutes on
Yeah.
a time trial.
on
And
a time
it's a
trial.
time trial.
And it was a time trial.
I like Chris Froome. I really enjoyed the fact like that everyone thought he was a robot, and then he attacked on the descent, and I just like the
Yeah.
person as a lot of people. He's easy to hate because Team Sky back in the day, and it was just like I don't know, but like I really like him. I'm all for him, hoping that he gets healthy again and continues to ride. And I think he's doing it because he loves it, because he doesn't need the money. I think he's doing it because he wants 5 tour wins, because that's historic as well. I don't know. My gut feeling is that he's done.
I just don't think he was ready to hang it up, even though his ability has dropped off a bit since the bad accident, the femur break. Yeah.
That was unfortunate, but
Yeah.
I mean, he was getting close to the end of the road, and I think that was just the. I don't want to say nail in the coffin because that's a little much, but I mean,
Yeah.
I just think that was it. I mean,
Yeah.
that was it.
I hope
agree.
he proves us wrong.
Me
Yeah.
too.
Cool. What else?
The only other big news is the Unbound Gravel Grinder is happening
Ooh.
this Saturday. And
That's this Saturday.
That is this Saturday.
Wow.
Is being broadcast live.
Really?
Yes, they are live broadcasting, which is fantastic.
Where can people watch that? Do you know off the top of your head?
It was no, I don't, but I know it's being broadcast live. I'm a whole lot of help
On
aren't
the
I?
interwebs or the TVs or
I think it's on the interweb.
It's like just their website. I think broadcasting that is going to be tricky, right? Because they're in the middle of nowhere. You're going to get bits and clips and pieces, but
Sure.
we'll see.
Yeah, they've got motorcycles and like 4-wheel drive cars that are going to be following the race action.
But
I
they're going to
believe-
have like satellite. I mean, isn't it? I mean,
I think that's what
you're
they're
not going to have
doing.
cellular connection throughout that whole thing. We'll see.
not the whole thing. It is. There's no mountains out there, but it's
But satellite's sketchy.
yeah. Tons of big names racing this.
Yeah.
Lots of big names showing up for this. Some people are calling Unbound Gravel like the premier bike race event in the U.S. at the moment.
name a bigger race.
Yeah.
I mean, you lost the Tour to California. I mean, that, in my opinion, was probably the big one, and you still got the Tour of Utah and the Tour of Colorado.
Kind
but
of.
those are
Yeah.
just stage races that aren't widely watched. But
Right.
if you think about a single race that's got probably the most popularity, that's tough to beat.
So lots of big names showing up for that.
Sure.
Anybody big in gravel is doing it. Some World Tour pros are lining up this year. Lawrence Tendam and Jim O'Brien just said it's Flow Sports that is
Broadcasting.
broadcasting.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, Unbound.
Those
So-
guys started with track and field, and back in the day, Flow Sports were trying. Like, I was a software developer, and they were like trying to get this program off the ground, where it was like, hey, we want to do live streaming. How do we do it? And I was like, well, this is at the time when Flash was like the way you do it, and
Right.
that's what I was an expert in, and like especially all the streaming stuff. And now they're big time. Now they've got all these different sports. It switched from track and field, and now they're doing cycling. They've got wrestling. They've got a couple other different sports, but
Doing all
I think
sorts
they
of
deal
different
with
stuff.
They deal with obscure sports. Obscure Sports Weekly, The Ocho. It's a movie reference for us.
Lawrence Tendam showing up. Ian Boswell, he has retired from World Tour Pro.
Correct.
He got a pretty bad concussion at the Dauphiné, at the Tirreno Adriatico like a year and a half ago, and didn't renew his contract with. Was he racing for Katusha? So he is out there racing gravel. Quinn Simmons is showing up from Trek. Thomas Decker is also showing up. There's Colin Strickland, Payson McKelvin, Yuri Hosvold, Ted King,
Dylan Johnson.
Dylan Johnson, Peter Stetna.
Holy cow.
Yeah. Curtis White, a cyclocross racer. He is coming. I mean, oh my gosh, there's so many people doing
Chris
this
Surratt.
race. Chris Surratt, our own teammate Chris Surratt.
The Chris Surratt. Do you know if the Vegan
Alvin
Cyclist
Yelp-
is doing it? I wonder if
Vegan
he's doing it.
Cyclist is doing it as well.
I would assume.
And his adventure buddy, Jeremiah Bishop, is also doing it. Who was like a
Lance, do you feel like you're missing out? Do you feel a little bit of that?
200-mile race. No,
It's a long
It
way.
is just.
You're like, no, thank you.
They got the kiddie version, the 100-mile.
They do have a 100-mile race. They have a kiddie version. I should be out there doing the kiddie version. I should have gone out there with Chris and done
Where's
the
the
kiddie
toddler
version.
version at like 60 miles?
I want the toddler version. I don't want this 200-mile crap. So lots of big names doing this race. It's kind of exciting watching what's going to happen. So
Have you been looking at anybody's power profiles from these things? Granted, they're not the 200-mile variety, but let's just talk about like some of the races that were last weekend. There was a bunch of them last week, and we talked about it in the podcast last week. What kind of power profile are we seeing from these guys? What kind of normalized power, average power, peak watts? I mean, what's pretty typical for those? I haven't looked, so it's a curiosity question there.
You know, most of these guys have FTPs in the 360 to 400 range,
Sure,
or more, and they're. It's hard to say because a lot of these gravel races don't have a lot of big climbs. It's just like
What are they holding, though? I guess is the $1 million question.
Well, they just like a tour race, they have like these huge because it's a lot of those are 200-mile race style
right.
distances or 150, I think, but like they're holding pretty low wattages, under 200 for big long sections of it, but then they'll
Sure.
do another big clip where they'll hold 300 watts or whatever for a bigger. I mean, this is just from Dylan Johnson, who posts details on his race and his numbers. Of course,
Yeah.
if you're heavier or lighter, those numbers would be different. But
Sure.
we should probably talk in, watts per kilo. But those guys will put in, big 20-mile blocks of upper, right around 300 watts or whatever,
Right.
where they're doing more damage to the lead
Sure.
pack and things like that. But it seems to me like more real racing, right? Where it's like, hey, there's front packs, and sometimes we're trying to break the pack, and sometimes we're, working together, and it just depends on the situation.
But the difference in sitting on a wheel on the
Yep.
road and sitting on a wheel in gravel is 60 or 80 watts higher in gravel, just because there's more resistance from the gravel and
Yeah.
the tires.
And sometimes you're getting a lot of spray from dirt and gunk and things like
Correct.
that, and it's just not great.
Matter of fact, Payson McKelvin, probably one of the favorites going into this, he got Giardia after the Bentonville race.
Oh, no.
So he was on his back and in the bathroom for like 4 days. He is rallying good enough that he's going to make it to the start line, but it was not a
Foregone conclusion he's going to be there, yeah.
good lead in,
No.
with that. So kind of crazy. The women's side also has a ton of hitters. Amity Rockwell and Allison Tetrick, former winners. Kathy Pruitt, who showed up at Belgium Waffle Ride last year, who's a triathlete and whipped the
she'll probably
field.
crush it then.
She
Wow.
crushed it. Casey Armstrong, who has won a bunch of races. Rebecca Faringer has won a bunch of gravel stuff. She's won all our Northwest gravel races this year, and she's out there racing. So a lot of Heather Jackson, Angela Nash, both
Triathlete studs.
both triathletes that are showing up for this as well. So
Wow.
the women's race has just big hitters too.
Are they still going to
Kind
be
of
in it?
exciting.
What are they capped at? Is it 2,000? Is that how many entries they're taking for that?
I think so. I think it
that?
was something like that.
That's a
I
big
think what's
race.
nice about that, although it might be different for the women since they're kind of mixed in, but like I think breakaways are real, right? Where like because a lot of those guys are using those little arrow bars.
Sure. Yep.
They are legal at Unbound. They're calling it UGG, UGG, Unbound Gravel Grinder. So at UGG this year, they
Like me a good acronym. I like that. That's
yeah,
It's fine, yeah.
arrow bars are legal there. So
legal it is. Are you gonna ever put arrow bars on your gravel bike? Have you thought about it?
I don't think so, because anytime I'm going to do a race that's long enough that arrow bars would actually be beneficial for me, that's not my jam.
Just not gonna do it, right? No. If I need arrow bars, I'm out.
I'm out.
You're a triathlete, Lance.
I know, I'm a recovering triathlete.
Your roots.
Fun.
You need to get those arrow bars on. I'll help you. I'll help you put them on.
Right on. Anything else?
That's it. Champ out.
Champ out. Matt, you got anything to report from the triathlon world? Running world? You want to do a service to that?
Well, there was a high school kid that went. I don't remember his exact time in the 1500. It's a new high school record in 1500, which is it wasn't just a new record. It was like a big drop. And get this, his high school time. He's 18 years old. His time for the 1500 was faster than the collegiate record.
Holy
in
cow,
the
are you kidding
1500.
me?
What?
No, I'm not joking.
Where's
and
he off to when
guys
he-
usually he was in a pro race or whatever, which does happen sometimes, but he also got an Olympic A qualifier time. Like he's one of 7 Americans that has that time
In high school.
I'm sure in high school. I mean, I'm sure he's a senior. He's finishing up school, but
my
he's from
goodness.
Michigan, and that was a cool race. Just basically was conservative and then closed hard in the race, which I think is kind of when you're a high schooler in a professional race. It was here in Portland. It was they have like a Portland, I don't remember what they call it, Twilight race or something like that each year. That's pretty big, and he crushed it. It's cool.
Wow.
Jeez. That is impressive.
Triathlon World local race is supposed to be this coming weekend. Was called the PDX Triathlon. However, they're planning on doing it in the Vancouver Lake.
No, I
And
talked
we
to
all
them
know
this
how
morning.
we all know how that tastes.
They made the call yesterday. They're switching it over to Frenchman's Bar, and they will be swimming in the Columbia because of the algae bloom.
They are. Okay,
Yeah.
that's good because I thought that they were just going to do a duathlon style thing, and that's no one likes that. So.
Now, I spoke with them on the phone this morning, and they transitioned as of yesterday. They're taking care of all the permits today, and it's going to be on for Saturday for the kids and Sunday for the triathlon. So
Okay, cool.
that was kind of.
I'm going to try to go out there and bring some camera stuff, I think. If
You want
on
to come with
Sunday.
me? I'll be out there on Sunday. I'll be out there.
We'll be out there.
5:30 in the morning. If you want to come.
I'm
with me.
going to try to get there early because I want to get drone footage. And basically, they shut down the road too. If you're not out there at a certain time, you can't get out there. So
Correct. So, cool.
Wow.
That it?
that's it.
Cool. I wanted to one other thing here locally. We've got another segment that, and this was just I just caught wind of this morning. I totally missed it, but I think it was on Monday on Memorial Day. Our good friend Beef Mountains, who destroyed that large KOM, went out and he did
yeah.
the Washougal triple crown.
The Triple Crown.
Oh, I didn't see this.
You didn't see this?
No.
So you got Tonk, who went out and he put in a good solid effort, and he had it at 1:17, an hour and 17 minutes and 21 seconds. And there was a little rumor that our good friend Joey Joe Jr. Shabadoo
Oh yeah.
I wrote
was
him on Monday.
was there to kind of help pace Tonk. I don't know what kind of pacing happened there, how much he helped him out, but Tonk still put in a stellar effort. But there was a little rumor that Mr. Joey Joe Jr. might have actually had a faster time, but didn't post his times because he,
I think I remember that.
wanted to give the kudos to Tonk because Tonk was the one that was going for it. Well,
It's true.
so he kind of kept it quiet, and all of a sudden it's posted because somebody else was going to go out there and put an effort into it. But our good friend Mr. Beef Mountains, aka Mike Guyvan, I don't know if we're supposed to be outing him or not, but it is
We
what it
just
is.
did, yeah.
Went out and he put an
You
effort
just
into
did.
the Triple Crown, which it's not an easy route. It's what is it, like 20 something miles, and there's a crap ton of climbing.
25.6 miles, 1,200 feet of climbing.
Great.
He put in
It's
a
beautiful out there.
time. So JoJo Jr. actually had the hour and 16 minutes and 59 seconds. So he was actually faster than Tonk by a little bit. Beef Mountains went out there and did it in an hour and 14 and 43 seconds.
He averaged 315 watts.
Oh my gosh, you
What?
guys!
20.6 mile an hour average.
His watts
For-
per kilogram
for
right
20
now are just
25
off
miles.
the charts. So it was
That
pretty
is
nuts.
Crazy.
And I think his watts per kilogram, he's like creeping up on like low 5 point somethings into the mid 5 point somethings.
Right.
And that is getting crazy strong and fast. And I'm really curious to see how he does tonight at the
he's coming.
Mount Tabor race. So is he
okay.
still racing as a 3? Is he still a 3?
I don't know because you can't see the registered riders anymore after this morning, so I don't know who's going to
Anyway,
be.
I just wanted to give a shout out to Mike. That was a pretty solid effort. I know that's not a race, but that's just a route that a lot of our teammates go out there and they put efforts into. That's probably that one and Larch are probably the two most contested. That one may be the Vancouver Lake one too, but
Oh my gosh.
that is something else. So kudos
amazing.
to Mr. Guy Van. So
Kudos, Beefy.
Kudos.
All right.
Beefy.
Thanks, Champ Bailey. Appreciate that. Let's jump into some Patreon stuff here. We didn't get to do this last week because just flat out forgot. We've got our little jar here, and we're gonna do a little drawing of the folks that are still in there. The people who have won recently have been removed, and we're just kind of going through that. The
winners have been removed.
So, Lance, do you want to pull one out of there? He's doing this legit. I'm watching. His hands are pie. It's live. He's digging through there. He's pulling one out. And who is it?
It is Laura Anderson.
Laura Anderson.
Ooh, cool.
I like Laura. She's awesome.
Yep.
Super cool, great supporter of the show, and she gets to come down here and pull something out of the box. We've got a box full of all kinds of cool stuff, and there's actually some new socks in there too, some dialed
cool.
socks in there. So that if you want a pair of dialed socks, you can have yourself one of those. One other thing, while we're on the Patreon topic, I'm not going to reveal the name to the world because I want them to have their anonymity still. But the real Champ Bailey has outed themselves to me.
We did find out who the real Champ Bailey is.
Champ Bailey is.
This is good because they can win things in the drawing, but it's still a fun game of we don't know, of some people not knowing
it
who
was
he is.
basically along the lines of paraphrasing, but damn it, I'm tired of not winning anything. This is who it is. So, and I told them that I'm not going to pull their name out. I want them to still have their moniker of
The real Champ Bailey's name is back in the drawing.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Real Champ Bailey, thank you for your support. And for those who want to support the Dial Podcast, you can go to dialpodcast.com and you will find the Patreon link right on there that you can click on through and find a Patreon that works best for you. You can be entered into all these drawings, and we've got Dial Podcast stickers and shout outs. We want to have some of you guys on to do the listener hot laps and just have you be a part of the show. So we appreciate the support.
Excellent.
Cool. All right. I think that is it for that stuff. Let's jump into one last thing and call this thing a day. Matt, you want to do one last thing for us?
2 videos in one day.
Not
Come
one.
on, people. There's so quality question mark, but I think that it's still worth going and checking out youtube.com/mlegrand. There's 2. Basically, Garmin made an announcement today. Also, it's Global Running Day today, which is a good thing that we are doing a cycling podcast on Global Running Day. But with the Global Running Day, Garmin actually announced 2 new watches, the Forerunner 945 LTE, which has that LTE cellular service where you can do things like live track, or you can do event tracks. People can send you messages while you're actually in an event. Goes right to your phone. Doesn't have to go through your actual smartphone.
Text back to them, correct? You can't text. Is there like pre-designed things like
There's
responses?
not, and
So
that was
it's a
one of my
one-way communications?
complaints.
Yeah.
Sort of. When you're going through it, so there's other things that it can do. Like there's an emergency situation kind of. So you can do like this, like double tap. I'm being
SOS.
tracked by some whatever. Like a guy in one of those sketchy vans that you guys have is following me around. That's when you want to hit that assist button. And with that particular one, there's a couple different things. There's assist and there's assist plus, but you can get 24-hour emergency service directly from your watch, and you can use some canned messages like "I'm hurt" or "my friend is hurt." Like there's some canned messages that you can use right from the watch, which is cool. And they also do have this ability to use this like slight keyboard thing, which you really wouldn't want to type on this watch unless you've got a lot of spare time. But it is possible to type in some sort of specific messages. But those are for those kind of assistant situations. It's not like you can type messages back to friends who are spectating and watching your live event. Unfortunately, I would love to see that. I'm sure Garmin is going to iterate on all of this stuff, but it's interesting because it's kind of like Garmin's cellular service, or I'm sure it's piggybacked on someone else, but still It's their deal, and they're actually charging the monthly rates, and it's not an excessive amount of money.
I was
It's
just gonna say, what does it cost?
$6 a month for a year. But if you sign a yearly contract, if you go month to month, it's $7 a month. So not as much as like a lot of the other smart devices that. Lance, you have an Apple Watch, right?
I do. Yeah.
Do you have it connected to the LTE services or anything like that?
No.
I don't know exactly what most of the carrier services charge for connecting a smart watch, but I think it's significantly more than that. I think that this is obviously less feature rich, but I think less expensive as well. So it is kind of that one-way communication, and it's kind of for athletic events and things like that. So
Do you see yourself ditching your current 945 in favor of the 945 LTE?
Well, there's a lot more changes to the 940. It's not like they just took the 945 and they added LTE to it. And so there are significant changes. The whole watch body is different. It's a different size watch. GPS accuracy is significantly better.
Really?
It's different. It's actually got a different heart rate monitor built into it. It's got their newer heart rate monitor that's more accurate. So I have to send this one back to Garmin, but I may pick this one up. I don't know. I haven't decided just yet. I know a guy that sells Garmin stuff. So
I know a guy that gets
pick it up.
a single demo unit that maybe he can help you out with that too. So
yeah, I might be up for that because
Cool.
I like to have especially watches that are kind of like major changes in top of the line triathlon watch. I feel like it kind of matches my channel. I feel like I should have one on hand because a lot of time you're comparing watches. You're saying like here's this size, here's that size, and so right now this.
I was going to say, know the 945 inside and out, so it behooves you to wear that new one to really learn all the nuances of that thing so you can speak to it. You can do your 100-day follow-up or your 1-year follow-up, and that's a fantastic thing that people love because those videos are super functional. I mean, people love them.
That I feel like is kind of where my channel has gone. Not like I had like a steering wheel or anything like that and I was directing it. It's just kind of drifts. And somehow I'm spending the middle of the night making videos. But.
Love it. Cool. Lance.
Yes.
One last thing, bud.
I got three last things.
What? Wow. Is that the whole title of One Last Thing?
One last three things.
One last three things. I am racing my road bike for the first time in 2 years in about 4 hours.
Wow.
4 hours from now, huh?
So
good luck.
The Mount Tabor race series is back in the Portland area, and it's a little like 1.5 mile long circuit that has some climbing in it, and so that's starting back up tonight. So that's kind of exciting. Lots of Portland people are excited that road racing we've got a race to do here in the Portland area for the first time in a couple years. So that's kind of exciting. Lots of teammates are going to be there.
Yep.
So that should be kind of exciting. So
wish I could be there. Long story, but
long story.
Maybe one of these days I'll be back out there. So
the other thing, it is my 27th wedding anniversary this Friday with my sweet wife Brandy. She is a phenomenal artist and a wonderful wife and mother. So we love her.
I love her art. You guys should all follow her on Instagram. Follow her on Instagram. It's worth it. I mean, you can follow Lance. He's cool too. But I mean, really, you want to follow Lance's better.
Brandy Hepler Art is her Instagram handle. She's fantastic. So
that's an understatement. Yeah, she's that good.
She's really good.
Her stuff, her animations, they like you look at them and they just like exude like a message or like a feeling or something like that. You just like you instantly connect to them. They're good. They evoke those feelings.
Yeah,
get all the feels.
Good stuff. So that's my second thing. My last thing is it is my youngest daughter's 21st birthday on Sunday.
Party on!
As well. So. Yeah,
you guys gonna go do shots together?
Big party at the Hepler house. We're having Thanksgiving dinner in June. That's what she wanted for her birthday. So that
is awesome.
That's fun.
That's what we're doing. Yeah.
Thanksgiving. Oh man, that sounds good. Are you gonna eat the turkey, or are you gonna have like tofu?
She doesn't eat turkey either. So it's the Thanksgiving sides dinner for
very
June.
Specific.
So that's what happened. So that's what happened with me.
Cool. My one last thing is I will be out at the PDX Triathlon all weekend this weekend. They will be doing the kids race on Saturday afternoon and evening, whatever you want to call that. And then on Sunday, I will be out there at the crack of dawn, probably before the sun comes up, and performing or helping them out with all their bike related needs. And we
Jake,
will
do you want to fly some drones for
Yes,
sunrise and out in Vancouver Lake area?
Sure.
Man, that could be fun.
let's
We
do
could.
it too.
We should just camera geek out if you're gonna be there early.
Well, I'm already bringing
just go-
everything just because I want to take pictures of everybody on
Yeah.
the team. So that would be
Let's do it.
fantastic. Yeah. If you want to hop a ride, you're welcome to come out, but you got to stick with me until it's
I
all
know.
said and
I
done.
want to bring my own car just for that reason because as soon as I get the chance to bolt, I am gone.
Yeah, I think I'm able
have
to
some-
get out of there about 12 or 1 o'clock, so it's not too bad.
Oh, okay, that's not too bad.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what she
I
was
have some
saying.
ideas for some videos I want to make. Actually, maybe I'll hit you up and talk to you about it.
Sure. So, yeah, if you want to come out and cheer on or come by and say hi, we will be out there, and it should be fun. And then, I'll talk about this other thing next week. I'll just keep it to one thing, let you
We'll get
guys
it.
go over
Yeah.
the top. Matt with his 2 videos and Lance with his 3 things. Jeez, you guys.
Lance had to one-up us.
All right, everybody who watched on YouTube today, thank you very much. There's a lot of comments in there, and I didn't get a chance really to kind of hit on that, but we appreciate all of the interaction there.
Yes.
Everybody who's listening to this, we recorded today. It will be out today. Guess what I'm going to be doing after this?
Just putting it out. Yep.
Everybody who's listening, we do appreciate that as well. We will see you all next week. Until then, bye for now.